think we're at the 12:03 mark, so we can go ahead and get started.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's virtual Power Up session. This is the second Power Up conference that Empower has hosted as a part of Norton Healthcare, and we are just so excited to have everyone involved today. So thank you so much to our planning committee and our leadership team, most especially to Pamela. We are looking forward to introducing her shortly, but especially thanks to everyone that made time in their day today to listen to this session. Just a real quick introduction. Again, I'm Catherine Hawkins. I am a Director of Clinical Effectiveness. I'm also the Chair of Empower, which is Norton Healthcare's Women's ERG, Employee Resource Group. So thank you everyone for attending. I'm here today with Lauren Davis, who's also on our Empower leadership team. Lauren, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Lauren Davis. I have been with Norton Healthcare for 9 years. I guess in December it'll be 9. I am the manager of physician and specialty marketing and have the great opportunity to work with a variety of you across the organization. I also serve on the board for Empower, our women's ERG.
Wonderful. So again, we do have the chat feature open. Lauren and I will be monitoring that throughout today's session. If you have any questions or comments, either for Pamela or for either one of us, please feel free to use that, and we'll do our best to answer that during the session today. Again, thank you so much for joining. Today is so special for many reasons. First of all, it's Lauren's birthday, so happy birthday, Lauren. Second of all,
thank you.
It is the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment being ratified by the United States. So this is the 100th anniversary of when women obtained the right to vote in this country. It's called Women's Equality Day. It's a very special day for us. We fought long and hard, not just to have the right to vote, but to actually be recognized on this day. So it's a relatively new celebration, and what a wonderful way to kick off our Power Up virtual speaker series.
Absolutely, Catherine. I really can't think of a better way to kind of celebrate this day than to kind of give employees and women in particular the opportunity to continue powering up. We know that that is kind of what is going to lead change and take us into a strong future. So we're excited to get started today. I was asked to share with you the why around our Power Up series. Of course, in the past, this was an in-person event. And while we miss all of your faces in person, we're excited to be able to do this in this virtual platform. And we fully recognize that actually that allows us to get it out to more people. So that is something that our team is really excited about. The why for today. At first, when somebody asked me that, I thought, why not? Knowledge is everything, as I said before, and an opportunity for us to take the time to stop and reflect is sometimes all we need in order to grow. And I know as leaders or just as employees in this crazy COVID world, we don't always get the chance to stop and pause and think. So today we're going to talk about words. For those of you who know me, it won't come as a surprise, but I love to talk to others and communicate. And when I first heard this topic by Pamela, my hair was blown back a little bit. It was definitely a self-reflection of the words I use or the words that I should lose. You will definitely find ones that you've never even thought of before. She's going to raise your attention to some things that you're like, man, I totally do say that. I know I do. So look forward to an interactive and self-reflective session. Please engage in the presentation from our guest, Pamela, and look for an interactive discussion. Again, Catherine mentioned using that comment section. So without further ado, Miss Pamela Jett has had a lifelong romance with words and their effect on human relationships. As a sought-after keynote speaker, trainer, and coach, Pamela provides audiences worldwide with remarkable communication tools for success. After pursuing her PhD, so she is a doctor in communication, spending time in prison as a movie extra, which sounds like an interesting story, and working as a university professor, Pamela decided to combine her love for the stage and her love of words and share her message of powerful communication with audiences worldwide. Audiences rave about Pamela's high energy, her witty humor, and her practical tools. We have had the pleasure here at Norton Healthcare of having her participate in our previous Power Up session. She also was a facilitator for our Women's Leadership Academy for 2 separate cohorts, and we are so excited to welcome her here today for Power Up, Words to Lose and Words to Choose.
Thank you so much, and I'm thrilled to be here. I see so many familiar names as I zip through the attendee list. So a special shout out to those of you who have participated in either a Power Up event where I have spoken, or you have participated in the Women's Leadership Academy. I am thrilled to be presenting for some of my favorite people, which would be Norton Healthcare people. You have my heart in many ways. I appreciate the work that you do. I appreciate the care that you give to the people in your community. And I'm thrilled to be able to share with you the words to choose and words to lose so that you can communicate with more confidence, more credibility, and greater influence. Because ultimately, that's what we as professionals, and I'm going to use the word professionals, I'm not simply going to say as women, but ultimately as professionals, we are looking to make a difference, make an impact, make sure that we get the attention, the authority, and the respect that we do indeed deserve. So as Lauren mentioned, I would encourage you to make sure that you have printed out your handout, because that isn't simply a piece of information, it's a note-taking device. Research indicates that you will learn better and you will retain information better, and you are more likely to put into practice the information and tools that you received today if you take some time to write them down. So you will be able to follow along on that note-taking device. I also have some slides here, and we can use those as visual triggers for the tools that we are going to use today. And speaking of visual triggers, one of the things that I find really fascinating is that sometimes as professionals, we get really frustrated because we're working very hard. We are giving our all to our job responsibilities. And we may be finding ourselves not getting the attention, not getting the authority, not getting the respect or the opportunities that we do indeed feel we deserve. So when I think about this, it's a bit of a dilemma, because if we're working really hard and we're not getting attention, authority, and respect, it feels very frustrating to have to say, hey, look at me, look at me, look at all the good work I'm doing. I'm so fabulous. And to be tooting our own horn loudly on a regular basis. In fact, for some of us, that's way outside of our comfort zone. So when I think about this dilemma that many of us have, and this mindset that, hey, good work ought to be noticed and rewarded, I come to a place where I recognize that it's not just enough to do good work. So I discovered a really easy way to express this using a 2x2 matrix. So a 2x2 matrix typically has two variables. And the first variable that I would like to talk about in this 2x2 matrix is the importance of the work that you are doing. So on our visual representation here, that would be the vertical line. That is our work's importance. And some of the work that we do is very important. Very important. Now, some of you might be thinking, no, everything I'm doing is important, and I won't argue with that, but there's some work that is more important than others. So we could call that more important, less important, or important, not important. It's on a continuum. And if you look at the tasks that you do on a regular basis, you might want to ask yourself, okay, am I spending my time, effort, and energies on things that are genuinely important, things that are genuinely making a difference to the goals and objectives of Norton Healthcare? Or am I spending a lot of my time, effort, and energy doing things that, while they might feel important, when I really look at them, they are not as important as other tasks? So that's the first aha. The second variable is the horizontal line, and that's the variable of visibility. Now, some of you are engaged in very important work, but it's not very visible. It's not very visible. I had a woman in one of my workshops one day. She came up to me and she said to me, Pamela, I'm so frustrated. I get into work on time. I come in and I put my head down and I get to work, and I am not getting the attention, authority, and respect I deserve. I spend a lot of time, effort, and energy making sure that I produce quality work product. Other people seem to be chit-chatting and wasting time, and they're getting promotions. They're getting opportunities. They're getting the praise and the kudos. I'm not getting any of that. What can I do? And I mentioned to her that she might be doing important work and doing it very well, but it may not be very visible. And it's important work that is visible that we want to be focusing on as professionals. Important work that is also visible. It's not enough simply to be doing good work or to be doing important work well. We want to make sure that we are doing important work that is visible. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I'm not comfortable tooting my own horn. I can respect that, which is why we're here today, because the great news is that in order to make our important work more visible, to get the attention, the authority, and the respect that we do indeed deserve, one of the most powerful things we can do is monitor our words. To get rid of the words that are no longer serving us and to add words or to power up our vocabulary. So one of the things that I would like to do is I'd like to take a quick poll of our attendees today. It's just really simple. Question A or answer A is if you think you need to work more on doing important work, or do you need to make your work more visible? Where do you personally want to focus? So when you think about the kind of work that you're doing, do you want to focus more on doing more work that is important, that you think, hey, you know what, I need to really focus where I'm using my time, or do I need to boost my visibility? And we see, oh, I love it. We see A's, B's. We have actually a quick poll. So let's see if we can participate in our quick poll. Doing more important work or making your work more visible. And some of you are answering in the chat. Some of you may answer in the poll. We'll take another moment or two and you can take that quick poll. I see a lot of you are just answering in the chat, which is fabulous. I'm seeing a lot of A's, I'm seeing a lot of B's, I'm seeing people who are saying I need to focus on things that are important. Some of you are saying visible. I love this. A lot of you are answering in the chat pod as well as some of you answering our poll, I would imagine. And I love it. The hosts and panelists cannot vote. We are not allowed. But if I were to cast a vote on, even for me as a professional, it's all about visibility for me. And I'm seeing that many of you are saying visible, visible, visible. Think about how you can use the tools that we are learning today to help you, whether you want to be more visible, which for those of you who did this in the polling, we see 43% of you, or more important, about 31% of you. So I'm not going to say we're split 50-50, but we're rather close in many respects. Many of you would probably, had there been a C, you would have said both. I want to focus on both. So I'm thrilled that you are here today, because this is our opportunity to really focus not only on doing important work, but making sure that that important work is visible. So my encouragement to you is to make sure that throughout this session, you are asking this power question to yourself. How will this work for me? Now, this is an incredibly important question. How will this work for me? Because if we were to simply ask ourselves, will this work for me? We'd be asking a yes or no question. But when we change the question up to how will this work for me? What we're doing is we are asking ourselves to think of opportunities of where we can apply the tools, tips, and techniques that we're using. We are giving ourselves permission to tweak, to adjust, to adapt the tools that we are discovering today. So my encouragement to you as we go through this is look for how will the tools, tips, and techniques that I'm sharing with you today work for you to either make your work more visible or to help you engage in more important work, which is really cool because what we're going to discover will help in both areas. Now, many of you had the opportunity before today's session to take an assertiveness assessment. That was one of the handouts that was provided. Now, do not fret if you did not take that assertiveness assessment. It's a great follow-up tool for our session today, because at the very foundation of the words to choose and the words to lose will be an underlying understanding and acceptance that assertive communication is the kind of communication that gets us more important work and helps our important work be more visible. Sadly, though, many of us are a bit confused with respect to what assertiveness is and what assertiveness is not. we get it confused with aggressiveness. And I think part of the reason we get it confused with aggressiveness is simply because they both start with A and they have S's in them and they're relatively the same length of word. I know that sounds really strange. However, it's been my experience that people will use those two words interchangeably without recognizing that there is a very profound difference. And one of the best ways to understand the difference is looking at this line. Now, this is a continuum. It's not really a line. It has arrows on the each end, which means that this line would keep going, going, and going, going, and going ad infinitum. Some of us in our communication are rather passive. We find ourselves on the passive scale, especially in the workplace. We have a hard time standing up for our own thoughts, our own wants, our own feelings, our own desires. We say yes when we would like to say no. We engage in communication that makes us play or seem small in the eyes of others. We find ourselves caving in or getting taken advantage of, and oh, whatever works for you works best for me is the kind of mindset that many of us have. Now, of course, the interesting thing is sometimes we really don't care. Really, it is whatever works best for you works best for me. But some of us are so deeply ingrained with playing nice and don't rock the boat and don't upset anybody that we have a hard time expressing our own opinions when we have them. If you are like a lot of women, you might have been raised to be a nice girl. You know, to go along to get along, don't rock the boat, which can create some very passive language habits. We're going to talk about some of those less obvious passive habits that you might be engaged in that we can break today. Now, some of you are thinking, I do not struggle with this. I am not one of these passive people at all. I don't struggle with passive communication or weak or powerless communication at all. In fact, Pamela, I've maybe have even overcompensated. I'm way over here on the other end of the scale, which is aggressive. Aggressive communicators are the kind of communicators who figure in every communication activity, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And if somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, I'm going to make darn sure that I win. And the aggressive communicator will use very direct or very even disrespectful language. They can get right in other people's faces. It is a very win-lose mentality. So the aggressive communicator disrespects the rights of other people. Now, the interesting thing is, passive communicators are disrespecting themselves. Now, luckily, there is a middle ground. That's why the word assertive is right in the middle. Assertive communication is that balance. An assertive communicator can stand up for his or herself. An assertive communicator can express their own wants, their own feelings, their own desires, but they do it in a way that is powerful, confident, and capable without disrespecting the rights of others. In fact, this is so important that I want to make sure that we have an understanding of what assertiveness is. Assertive communication is communication which respects the rights of both or all parties. So when we as women or professionals decide that we want to communicate with confidence, credibility, and influence, we're not becoming bullies, but we're also not being doormats. We're engaging in assertive communication. And all of the communication tools that I'm about to give you to add to either your start or your stop pages or your words to choose column and your words to lose column, which is a part of your note-taking device, they are all assertiveness tools. And I want you to know that they are not aggressive, they are not disrespectful, but for some of you it's going to feel strange because you might be so used to being passive. And for some of you, we'll also need to tone down some of the aggressiveness because maybe you felt like, oh, I've had to work harder than others and I need to get that attention, authority, and respect, and we may have become aggressive in the process. So please know that all of the words that we choose and all of the words that we are going to lose will be assertive words to choose and either passive or aggressive words that we want to lose. And you might notice, as I mentioned, on your note-taking device, I have an opportunity for you to write down some of the words to choose. So those will be represented by a nice check mark. Now, some of you will write some of these down. Some of you will choose to simply remember them. I would encourage you to write them down. However, if you are not writing notes, that's perfectly fine. Cement them in your brain, and this will be your visual trigger, this nice orange check mark, that these are words to choose. We're also going to be talking about words to lose, that blue X, the things to get rid of, the things to stop saying. Now, I do want to give you a heads up about some of these words to lose. Some of these words to lose are more caution words. I could use caution tape if I wanted to. There are some words we simply want to get rid of 100%. And then there are some words and phrases that depending on context, they may not be as damaging as they could be, or we want to use them intentionally or with caution. So with that in mind, let's talk about our very first word to lose. And this is a word that many of us are addicted to. We say it so many times in one day that if we were to try and count how many times we said sorry, we would be shocked. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, I don't want to bother you. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And some of us will bump into a post and say sorry to it. We will apologize to inanimate objects. Now, here's the problem with this. When we wind up saying sorry all the time, we are often saying sorry for things that we have absolutely zero influence over. We're taking responsibility for things that we have absolutely no responsibility for, no influence or impact over. And we wind up saying sorry all the time, which makes us look weak. Some of you will even, in a meeting, when you are jumping in or interjecting into a conversation, you will say things like, oh, sorry. And that is a bad habit. Oh, by the way, before I dive more deeply, I just noticed something in our chat pod that says, how about passive aggressiveness? And Paula, I have to tell you that passive aggressiveness is one of those conversations that we could have an entire workshop on. But I do want you to know that, yes, passive aggressiveness is all that passiveness that comes out, or that actually it's aggressiveness that masquerades as passiveness, is what I'm trying to say. It's all nice and nice on the surface, but underneath nasty. And we certainly do not want to engage in passive aggressiveness either. And by the way, sorry can often be used in a passive aggressive fashion. Sorry, but you know, that's a really ugly top. And it's almost as if we think by saying, sorry to have to tell you this, or sorry to be the bearer of bad news, that almost in the passive aggressive communicator's mind will negate the mean and nasty thing that they just said. That's a form of passive aggressiveness. Sorry also simply makes us look weak. It makes us look like we are not very powerful. And the interesting thing about this is research supports this. There was an interesting research study done with recidivistic violent offenders who primarily targeted women, and they were asked what some of their methods were to identify their victims. And some of their methods were pretty common. You know, they looked for people who looked like they were easy targets. But there was a trend that said that many of these recidivistic, meaning repeat offenders, would go into a big box store like a Walmart or a Target or a Costco or something like that, and they would intentionally ram a woman who they thought might be a good victim. They would ram her shopping cart. And if the first thing out of that woman's mouth was, oh, sorry, then that was confirmation that, oh, this was going to be an easy target. So what can we say instead? Well, my favorite thing to replace sorry with is apologize. I apologize. Now, first of all, when you say I apologize, it's taken more seriously, because research is also really clear that people hear sorry so many times in one day that it's lost its impact. So even if we are genuinely sorrowful, when we are genuinely expressing sorrow, which is what sorry is all about, it doesn't land the way we would like it to, because people are so used to hearing it, it's lost its meaning. But what if we said, I apologize? If you get in the habit of saying, I apologize, it increases the likelihood that you will no longer be saying sorry for things that you have absolutely zero responsibility for. And it will increase the likelihood that your apology is taken more seriously, and it flat out sounds more professional. I mean, imagine this scenario. You go on a holiday, or not, you don't, your best friend goes on a holiday. She comes back from her holiday or vacation, and it had rained her entire vacation, and say she was taking her family to Disney World, and she comes back rather disappointed. You might say, oh, I'm sorry about the rain on your vacation. But now you know you can't say sorry, because that's just, you know, that's not allowed. And you also won't say, I apologize for the rain on your vacation, because that's wrong. We're not responsible for the weather. Now, some of you are thinking, well, then what do I say then? Well, you can empathize. That's another thing. I feel badly that it rained on your vacation. So when apologies aren't necessarily appropriate and you don't want to say sorry, you can empathize. By the way, another technique to use is to thank someone for. Instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry that I was late to our meeting, you can say, I apologize for being late. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for being late. Thank you for your patience. Or, oh, that took longer than I thought. Thank you for waiting. Instead of, oh, sorry for making you wait. That took longer than I thought. I really appreciate your patience while waiting. There are all sorts of opportunities to thank people instead of saying sorry. Now, here's the catch. I love this. I just got a question. What about when someone dies? Well, that is a really great question. This is one of those situations where if you can minimize the amount of sorry that you say, you will be making a better impact professionally. I choose to say, my condolences on your loss, or my heart is hurting for you at this time of loss. I will say those kinds of things. However, if you say, sorry for your loss, you are genuinely expressing sorrow. And if you have eliminated the unnecessary sorries from your life, and when something truly sorrowful happens, like someone passing, and you say, I'm sorry for your loss, you're not taking away from your power, your confidence, your capability. It's these unwitting, unknowing, habitual sorries. And like I said, there are other options if you choose to eliminate sorry completely. I try to say my condolences, or my heart goes out to you at this time, or words fail, but please know that I'm thinking of you during this difficult time. There are all sorts of other things you can say instead of saying sorry. However, saying sorry during some of those genuinely sorrowful times is fine, as long as we are minimizing the use of sorry when it is no longer necessary. This is a small change that can make a big difference in our overall communication confidence. We also want to get rid of, and these are more things to lose, minimizers. Now, minimizers are words or phrases that make what we're about to talk about or speak about seem less. It will seem less important, less powerful, and less intriguing or interesting to someone else. And many of us are using these words and we don't even realize it. The first minimizer that I would encourage you to pay attention to is the word just. I just have this project. I just need a minute of your time. Now, I'd like you to imagine as an employee how it would feel if every time your leader came to you and said, I just need a moment of your time. Eventually, when they put just need a moment of your time, eventually it might make you feel like your time isn't very important, or that what they are asking you to do isn't very important, or what they are asking you to focus on isn't very important. The word just makes everything seem less. When I do in-person workshops, and someday I'll get to do those again, yay, I know it's going to happen. When I get to do in-person workshops, one of the things that I often do is I do some meet and greet, and I ask people, hey, what do you do? And if we were in a live workshop, I might be asking you, what do you do for Norton Healthcare? And every once in a while, someone will say, well, I'm just a fill in the blank. And yet I've never heard a brain surgeon say, I'm just a brain surgeon. Why is what you do any less important than a brain surgeon or any other career for that matter? Watch out for saying, I'm just an anything, or this is just a quick meeting, or this is just a first stage proposal. If you're proposing something, go ahead and say, hey, this is a stage 1 proposal, or this is our first proposal, or this is our rough draft proposal. Go ahead and own it if it's not a fully fleshed out, or this proposal is in its embryonic stages. Not, oh yeah, this is just a little beginning. Speaking of, we often combine the word just with the word little, or we use little all on its own. Please, whatever you do, do not go to your leader and say, hey, I got a little problem. Please don't say you have a little problem. Because the moment you say to your leader, you have a little problem, which is, by the way, something passive people do because they don't want to seem like they're taking up too much time or being too much. If you say you've got a little problem, it is a foregone conclusion that your leader is thinking, whoa, why aren't you solving it yourself if it's such a little problem? Or they put it on the south end of their to-do list. Oh, I love this. Look at, some of you may not see this in the chat. I'll never forget working in the hospital years ago, and a physician asked me a question that was above my head pay grade. My response was something like, I'm just a secretary. She said, darling, none of us are just anything. You and your work are vital to the organization. Don't forget that. Oh, that warms my heart that someone said you're not just anything. What you do is vital. Oh, that's so powerful. Watch out for the just, watch out for the word little. The moment you say, oh, I've got a little problem, someone's going to think, well, I'm not going to pay that much attention to it. Or what if you're in a meeting and you say, hey, I've got a little idea. I guarantee you nobody's going to pay attention to your little idea. 20 minutes later, somebody's going to say, oh, I've got the solution. And you're thinking, wait a minute. I just said that. They're stealing my idea. No, they're not. They have the solution. You gave them a little idea. Watch out for just and watch out for little. We also want to watch out for qualifiers. And I learned this in a very interesting way. When I was in junior high, that's what we called junior high or middle school, 7th, 8th grade, a long time ago. I'm not telling you how long ago that was. I had a PE or a physical education teacher who delegated a job to me. She delegated the task of taking roll for the class. And then there was a roll book, and it was rather complicated. If somebody was there, you put a check. If they were absent, there was an X. If they were late, you put a slash or something along those lines. And people were doing their calisthenics while I was taking roll, and I didn't always know everybody's name, and so it was a bit of a struggle for me. And however, I didn't want to appear weak to this teacher who trusted me with this job, and so it was a very high stress thing for me to do, to make sure I got everybody's name right and I knew who everybody was, and all of these things were a bit of a challenge for me. And I'll never forget that I would take the completed roll to her in her trailer. Why we had those extension trailers. Why she wasn't out there with us is a good question. But I remember going into her trailer and saying, you know, I could be wrong, or this might not be accurate. And I must have said that one time too many to her, because she said to me, Pamela Jett, if you say one more time I could be wrong, you will fail PE. Now, that terrified me because I wasn't very athletic to begin with, and the thought of failing PE because I couldn't take roll properly scared the heck out of me. But she began to tell me that when I said I could be wrong, I just came across as weak and mamby-pamby, and that if I didn't do it right, I needed to ask her, how do I do it right? To be assertive instead of, well, I could be wrong, but in that mamby-pamby way. I'm so grateful for that powerful lesson that I learned at about 12 years old. It changed the course of my life. It helped me to not qualify what I was going to say. For example, qualifiers, oh, it's kind of right, or I kind of think that, or sort of. So I didn't use the kind ofs, I didn't use the sort ofs, which are weak and mamby-pamby, and I also stopped using disclaimers. And I venture to guess that many of you participating right now use more disclaimers than you realize. You may say things like, I might be the only one who thinks this. So you're in a meeting with some high-level individuals at Norton Healthcare, and you have a position, you have a point of view, you have a thought you would like to share. But instead of simply saying, I have a thought, you will say, I might be the only one who thinks this, or this might be a stupid question, or this might be a dumb question, or we may have already covered this, but I have a question. The moment you say, this might be a stupid question, or this might be a dumb question, let me tell you what happens. First and foremost, there's always going to be someone in the conversation group, whether it's on a Zoom meeting, a face-to-face meeting, a small group meeting, a large group meeting, there is always someone who, when you say, this might be a stupid question, is saying, yeah, it is, so why are you wasting our time? There's always somebody that's going to trigger that for. Then there's going to be those people who will now, because you have said this might be a stupid question, will now start looking for ways in which your question is stupid. Had you not said, this might be a dumb question, or this might be a redundant question, or I might be being nitpicky, or however we disclaim our comment, now they're looking for ways that you said something dumb or stupid. Or, I'm not sure if this is right, and they're going to find ways where your answer is right or incomplete or wrong or inaccurate. Disclaimers are a habit that many of us as women have. I could be wrong. This might be a stupid question. I don't know if this is correct. Let's stop using those. And sometimes people say, well, what are we supposed to say instead? You're not supposed to say anything. You're supposed to simply position your contribution. Instead of saying this might be a stupid question, simply, I have a question. Or, I might be the only one who thinks this. Why not say, this is what I believe, or here's my thought, or ask your question instead of this might be a stupid question. I love it. I'm seeing some of you saying guilty. Oh my gosh. Oh, here's another one then. This is very high level. So before I explain to you why I have a word to lose, and it's the word help, let me give you a piece of caution. Whatever you do, do not go back to your team if they were not on today's call or Zoom and say, hey, I heard from that leadership and communication skills lady that I'm supposed to never use the word help. I'm supposed to stop helping. No, 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 no. I am not saying stop helping. In fact, if you say, hey, I'm not supposed to help anymore, I guarantee you that people will say, and you're not going to any more of those meetings either, are you? The word help is a really interesting word. So let me explain where this came from. I was coaching a mid-level leader who was looking to move up to a senior leadership position. She is female. She is diminutive in stature. She's tiny, very, very tiny. And she looks younger than her age. Now, I will tell you, she is smarter and wiser and has a stronger work ethic than most of the members of the senior level leadership team. I mean, she is the real deal. But because of her stature, she must work a bit harder. And some of you are thinking, man, that's not fair. You're right. But fair is a 4-letter F word. So let's put fair on our stop column or our words to lose as well, because you're right. It's not fair, and it's also her reality. So we were having a conversation during a coaching session, and she said, I'm wondering if I could help with that project. And I said to her, okay, we got to stop this. You don't want to be a helper on projects, because the moment you start positioning yourself as someone who is a helper on projects, you are putting yourself, here's the project leader and here's you. You are minimizing your status in comparison to the other people who are participating in this project or in the level of work that you're doing. So think about this for a moment. What if you said to someone, instead of, I'd like to help with that project, how about saying something like, I'd like to be on that project team. Or I'd like to contribute to that project. Or I was thinking that this would be interesting, or I would love to be able to participate. And to me, it says something when you say I was part of that initiative, or I was part of that project, and say, instead of saying I helped with that project, or it was great to work with so-and-so on this project. It was great to work with Susan on this project, instead of I helped with this project. You are now putting yourself in an equal level. And it doesn't mean that you are discounting someone else's contribution. It doesn't mean that you are making their contribution less impactful. It is really powerful. And I like this. What about as a leader saying, can I get your help with X? Why not say, I could use your talents on X, or I would love for you to work with me, not for me. Will you work with me on this? How about instead of saying, can I help you with anything else, or thank you for your help, you can say thank you for your assistance, or what else may I do on this project, or how else may I move this project forward, or how else may I work with you to achieve our objectives. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, oh, wow, that is so hard to remember, and that is, you're nitpicking, Pamela. Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. As a leader, you can say, thank you for your contribution to the team's success, instead of saying, hey, thank you for the help you gave to our team, or thanks for helping our team. from my perspective, you're still going to probably use the word help. You might be saying, hey, how can I help? If you can be more intentional and saying, hey, I have some background in X, Y, and Z. I'd love to be on this team. Or I'd love to work with you on this. You are starting to position yourself as someone who is doing more visible and more important work. This is one of those small changes that can make a really big difference in terms of doing work that is not only seen as more important, it's also more visible. Now, again, just like with the word sorry, there will probably be occasions where you will say help and you'll be, oh, I can't believe I did that. But be more intentional. One of the things that can help you with that is to go back over any emails that you may have sent recently where you may have used the word help, and go back and do a search to see how you positioned the word help and to see if there was a more powerful way to say it. Oh, and I love this. Kelsey's like, so did she eventually move up? Oh, yes. She has made several steps forward in her career. And if you were to ask her, her name is Colleen, if you were to ask her what made the difference, it was learning how to communicate in this fashion. These small changes that she chose to make made a huge difference in her career. She is now, and she's in the HR function, she is now the HR partner, notice how they call them partners, HR partner for the biggest business unit in her organization, which is really exciting. I know, I love it. Congrats to her, and thank you very much. Kudos to me. She did the work. That's the cool thing. I have the tools that I can share with you. However, it's up to you to ask, how will this work for me and how can I implement them? And I like this. What about not using help with family, like a spouse? Boy, I believe that's powerful. Can you work with me on this? Or could you simply do this? Especially if you are speaking to someone, oh, you know, would you help me? And it may sound wheedling or whiny, or thank you for helping with the kids. Think about this for a moment. If this is your spouse and you have children together, why is it that they're helping? That's an interesting concept. Or, you know, whether it's male or female, it's kind of an interesting concept to think about. So think about how you can make some smart changes. Hey, thanks for pitching in. Thanks for doing this. You don't have to say helping, just simply thanks for doing this. Great ideas. I love it. Now, one of the things that I teach my individual coachees and the people that I work with on a one-on-one basis is how to have more impact by being more succinct. Because when we look at how, and I'm speaking in particular to women, however, some men struggle with this, women tend to use twice as many words as men do to say the same thing. I'll share that with you again. Women tend to do or use twice as many words, and somebody said, oh, sometimes 3 times as many to say the same thing. So how do we become more concise so that we get more attention because of our brevity? As research is very clear that the more concise we are, the more attention that we are going to get. And one of the third time's a charm, best methods that I have discovered is what I call the triple S. The triple S was discovered when I was working with a woman who was a support staff person, an admin person to a senior government official. She was the support staff person for the most senior level administrator of a government agency. And I was working with her in her Washington, D.C. office. This was a very high profile position. She was an administrative assistant. She was an administrative assistant who had tons of responsibilities. And she was getting a lot of feedback from her director saying, projects are getting clogged on your desk. Things are getting stopped on your desk and things aren't moving forward quickly. And the feedback was given to her as criticism that workflow wasn't happening the way it ought to. And she came to me and she said, I was getting this feedback and I'm very frustrated because most of this stoppage, most of this work clog is happening because I'm not able to get my leader's ear because he's a top government official. I'm having a really hard time getting my leader's ear. And there are many, many things that it happened to be a man, that he either needed to say yes or no to, or to approve or to sign off on. She said, his schedule is so packed that I am almost always getting to him as he goes from meeting to meeting. I have a very teeny tiny window, and I'm not able to accomplish a lot during that teeny tiny window, and I'm rarely able to get time with him one-on-one. Now, some of you are probably thinking, oh, that sounds very familiar. You might not be in a support staff position. However, you might have a tough time getting the ear of a senior level leader. And when you do get their ear, you're not able to accomplish a lot because you have a very brief window. When she asked me what to do about it, I shared with her what I call the triple S. The great thing about the triple S is you can use the triple S to prepare for a conversation, and it's also a great way to organize your thoughts in a rational, linear, logical fashion. And the cool part about it, super easy. The first S stands for situation. If you need to express something to someone and you want to be concise, start out with what we would call a situational overview. So if it's a problem or if it's an issue, it's, hey, here's the current situation or here's the current problem. See how you are able to give the high level picture. This is the situation. And then you offer your preferred solution or what you believe the next step ought to be. Here's what's going on. Here's what I'd like to do about it. Or here's the problem. Here's my preferred solution. Now, if you don't have one preferred solution, it's here's our current situation. Here are our 3 options to fix it. So it's situation, solution, and then the final S stands for support. And this is what I need from you. Or will that work for you? Or can we do this? So sometimes it's, here's the problem, here's my solution, do I have your approval? Boom, boom, boom. Or here's what's going on, here's the top 2 solutions that I believe we can explore. Which one would you prefer me to move forward on? What do you need from them? Or here's what our next step needs to be. Or here's what I need from you. Situation, solution, support. Thank you, Mary. I'm so glad that you like the triple S ideas because I have found that it's very powerful. You can use the triple S in email to organize emails that sometimes get really, really rambly, to present in meetings. Here's what's going on. Here's my recommendation. Here's what I need from this team. Boom, boom, boom. Incredibly powerful. Another one of those tools that if you put it in your toolkit, you are going to be able to communicate with more confidence, more credibility, and more impact. And remember, that's what we're looking to do. We are looking to move into more important work that is also visible. Are you doing important work that is not visible? And can you use some of the words that we've been talking about in our language to move it into a more visible place? Or are you doing work and it's visible work, but people don't see it as important enough? And are you using your words to move it into a greater level of importance? I like this. Courtney's asking, what if you need assistance with a solution? Then that's the support you need. Here's my situation. Here's the solution that we're exploring. What I could use from you is some opportunity or time to brainstorm. Or here's our situation. The ideal solution would have these 3 key components. I could use your assistance with coming up with a final solution. So it's the same format, you tweak it a bit. That's part of the joy of asking, how will this work for me? How can I use these tools and strategies in my day-to-day conversations and my day-to-day responsibilities? I'm so thrilled that you are here today to learn these, and I want to share with you, I have an upcoming new opportunity. We're very excited about this. We just launched this. We'll be starting our first cohorts in September. I am offering semi-private group coaching, which sounds kind of odd, but some of you are wondering, how do I have that kind of experience where I get some one-on-one advice, answers to my questions, and have my career take the next step? Well, how do I get access to that? Well, obviously I do one-on-one coaching. However, a lot of people are saying that they would love to have that in like a semi-private. So think about personal training done in a semi-private fashion. So we'll be having very small cohorts for 6 sessions. And you get one-on-one access to me, time to answer your questions, and we'll talk about not only some of the issues that we've been raising here, but we'll dive deeply into assertiveness and how to stay assertive and what gets in our way and all of these career strategies that I have hinted to. So if that's something that is interesting to you, check out my website, connect with me. And obviously, if you want to stay connected, you can find me at relentlesslypositive.com or PamelaJett.com is probably the easiest way to go because Relentlessly Positive is too long and complicated. So just find me on relentlesslypositive.com or hang out with me on social media. You can find me there. And obviously, if you are thinking, wow, this is fun, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. And some of you already are. So we have, according to the official Timekeepers Watch, we have a few minutes for some questions. And I'm confident that there are questions that have come in. So I am now ready to take those. And by the way, you are very welcome, those of you who are popping in. Oh, my website is blocked here at Norton. Call me or find me on social media. You can find me on social media too, LinkedIn and so forth, so you can always connect with me there. Well, I wonder why I'm blocked at Norton. It's random.
So the Relentlessly Positive one is, but if you go to the next link down, your actual PamelaJett.com, that's not blocked.
Okay,
yeah.
go block.
Yeah,
so
like
then
the
that's
first one when you search in Google, just go to the second link. It's fine. The Relentlessly Positive, I think, is more of that. I think you had a great opportunity for people to collaborate and share over COVID, and there was a little bit of a discussion board, and discussion boards are blocked here at Norton.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So yes, just go to PamelaJett.com or send me an email or find me on social media because we're going to start our first cohorts in September. So we'd love to have you participate. Do you coach people on how to use email or phone calls more? Yes, ma'am, I sure do.
While we wait for some questions to come in, and please keep them coming. I feel like we've kept up with most of the questions that were live during it. So Pamela, great job there. I don't know about you, but there are some Zoom calls that I'm like, I feel myself checking the time. And on this one, I was like, no, it can't be almost over.
So I had to look at myself and go, oh my gosh, she's summarizing. I couldn't believe it. So I took a ton of notes. I know probably most of you did as well, but we have recorded this webinar and we'll be able to send out the link to all the attendees afterwards. I believe a couple people weren't able to attend, so we'll make sure that we can get this out on our Empower website and host it there for your viewing pleasure later if you want to review any of the tips and tricks that Pamela has talked about today.
Kathy,
we got a great question there. Yeah, it's
that. What a great one. What are your favorite power words with Pamela? Are there some go-to ones for you?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we did not talk about due to time constraints is that one of the words to get rid of, so if you're still taking notes, get rid of the word idea. Stop having ideas. And this is a lot like saying, oh, you know, I was told I'm not supposed to be helpful. No, that's not the point. Don't tell your leader, oh, I'm not supposed to have ideas at work either. No, idea is a weak word. Let's start talking about solution, plan, system, proposal. So I love solution, plan, system, proposal. I love that because that takes an idea and elevates it. People will pay attention when you offer a solution or a plan or proposal as opposed to an idea. Idea is not bad. Let's power it up and use solution, plan, proposal. So that's probably one of my favorites.
I don't know about you, Catherine. So I've heard this chat before from you, Miss Pam, but I still have like sticky notes of suggestions as always. So I feel like regardless of the level and regardless of what stage in your career you're at, this topic applies to all. I was like making a list of people who I didn't get a chance to send this out to prior in the organization that I was like, ooh, she would love this. So really,
really quickly, I want to add, I know we had a few gentlemen on the call today, and I really, really enjoy having our allies here. I just want to make sure that they also know that this is a great opportunity to encourage and support the women in their lives that they work with every day, and remind them of some of these helpful hints and tips. I know as a mentor, I have done that for people that report to me or people that are working with me, and it's been very impactful. So I really want to encourage our allies to do the same.
And I would chime in for our allies as well that the tools that I have shared are not simply tools for women. These are gender neutral, position neutral. The tools work across the board, no matter where you are in an organization. Some of the tools that I gave address challenges that women often struggle with, maybe more so than their male allies, but I know plenty of gentlemen who struggle with some of these issues as well. So great point there, Catherine. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
I think too, and you touched on this a little bit. They're great tools professionally and personally. I know we had some comments about husbands and spouses and kids and friends and partners. I know I find a lot of these and I'm like, I don't do that at work, but I definitely do that at home. So I would encourage everyone to think about that as well. I think we're wrapping up on questions. Catherine, do you want to give us, as we mentioned before at the beginning of this is going to be a series. So Catherine's going to share with us the next Power Up. We tried to make it as easy as possible for everyone to remember. This is going to be September and October. And the September session, they are always the 4th Wednesday of the month.
Yes, thank you so much. So our next session is going to be a wonderful tie-in to this. So as we're powering ourselves up, we really need to be focused on creating our personal brand, creating our brand. So that can be such a powerful tool. And we're going to have 2 great guests. So Jennifer Terry, who works here at Norton Healthcare, we really just value her personal brand and think she's got a lot that she can share with us. And then also Tiffany Robinson, who is external. So it'll be a wonderful perspective from 2 great women who have done a lot with their careers, both here at Norton Healthcare and then also outside.
For some, the brand seems, that brand, your personal brand, we've heard that as a buzzword. I think our committee for this next one, just as a tidbit to promote, in healthcare, sometimes you can get bucketed into a brand that's clinical or system or really niche. And so this topic, we challenged our speakers to help us create a personal brand, but then how do you translate that, right? So if you are someone who's wanting to move from bedside to a non-bedside position, or maybe you're looking to go back the other way, we're hoping that this session will also help you create a brand that you can translate anywhere within our organization or whatever your career takes you to. So expect to find that in this next session as well.
Absolutely. So you'll get a communication that will be sent out, and you'll register the same way that you did for this event. So please go to nortonhealthcare.com/powerup or call the Access Center 629-1234 option 4, and we'll get you registered for that event. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's webinar. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to attend. Thank you so much to Pamela Jett. Thank you to Lauren and our planning team. Thank you so much to Mary Jo Bean, our executive sponsor for Empower, and everyone a part of EIB. So thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.